Okay, welcome. You're here for a deep dive with us today.
That's right.
And our mission, well, it's pretty straightforward, actually. We want to cut through all the noise and really get you the core insights from a really influential book.
A classic, really.
Definitely. We are talking about Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, how a book that first came out way back in 1989.
Feels like ages ago.
Right, how it continues to really resonate with people looking for, more effectiveness in their lives, in their work.
Absolutely. And you've also got the Covey family tribute in there from that same year.
hmm Which gives you a bit more of a personal angle, kind of a glimpse into the principles behind Covey's own life.
Yeah, adds another layer. And, they also include information about the Franklin Covey trademarks.
Right, which just reminds you how widespread these ideas became, especially in the professional world, training programs and such.
For sure. Now, you might hear 7 habits and think, whoa, that sounds like a lot to take in.
Yeah, it could sound overwhelming.
But that's not our goal here today. We're really aiming to pull out the essentials, the actionable stuff, the wisdom you can actually use.
Exactly. Think of this as your express route to understanding the key principles. We want you to walk away feeling like you've got a clear handle on what makes these habits so, well, powerful.
So maybe a quick roadmap would help.
Good idea. Let's lay them out. The 7 habits we're going to explore are, first, be proactive.
Yeah.
Then, begin with the end in mind. Third is put first things first.
The time management one,
Yeah.
essentially.
Kind of, yeah, but deeper. Then, think win-win. Habit 5 is seek first to understand, then to be understood.
Crucial communication piece.
Definitely. Number 6 is synergize. And finally, number 7, sharpen the saw.
That's the renewal habit.
Exactly. And what's really key here, and you touched on this, is that Covey isn't just giving you like quick tips or tricks.
No, it's not a list of life hacks. He's really laying out fundamental principles. He talks about them almost like natural laws, things that underpin effectiveness in the long run.
Yeah, it's much more about building a solid foundation, isn't it? Based on character.
Precisely. And that focus on principles, I think that's a huge part of why the book has stayed so relevant for so long.
Decades now. People in all sorts of jobs, all stages of life, they keep finding value in these core ideas.
Right. And having those extra bits, like the foreword you mentioned, the family tribute, even the acknowledgments,
Yeah.
it gives you a richer picture.
Yeah, different angles on why the book matters and how the idea is developed. It adds context. Okay, so that's our aim for this deep dive, to get you those enduring principles of effectiveness from the 7 habits. We're here to be your guides, basically.
And hopefully by the time we wrap this up, you'll have a much clearer sense of what these habits are all about and maybe, how they might fit into your own goals, your own pursuit of effectiveness.
Precisely. So let's dive right in then. That first habit, be proactive. What's the absolute core idea someone should take away from that one?
Right. Be proactive. Well, fundamentally, it's about recognizing that between what happens to you, the stimulus, and how you react, the response, there's a space.
Okay, a space.
Yeah, and in that space lies your freedom, your power to choose your response. You aren't just a product of your circumstances or your conditioning.
So it's about taking ownership, basically, not blaming things outside yourself.
Exactly that. It's about initiative. It's about responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Proactive people focus their energy on their circle of influence, the things they can actually do something about.
Rather than the circle of concern, all the stuff you worry about but can't control.
Precisely. That shift in focus is, well, it's fundamental. It's the foundation for all the other habits, really.
Makes sense. You have to believe you can act before you figure out how to act effectively.
You got it. It's the difference between being the driver of your life versus just being a passenger.
Okay, powerful start. So, after realizing you're in charge, being proactive, what's next? Habit 2.
Habit 2 is begin with the end in mind.
Right. Vision, goals, that sort of thing.
Exactly. It's about having a clear understanding of your destination, knowing where you're going so that the steps you take are always in the right direction.
Like having a personal mission statement.
That's a key application of it, yeah. Covey suggests visualizing your own funeral, actually.
Oh, wow. Intense.
A bit morbid, maybe, but effective. What would you want people to say about you? About your character, your contributions, your relationships? Thinking about that helps you identify your deepest values and what truly matters.
So it's about defining what success actually looks like for you personally before you start chasing it.
Yes. It ensures that you're not just climbing the ladder of success only to find, it's leaning against the wrong wall when you get to the top.
Ah, that's a good way to put it. So proactive first, then define your destination. What's habit 3?
Habit 3 is put first things first. This is where um, personal management comes in. It's the practical fulfillment of habits 1 and 2.
Okay, so this is where the planning and prioritizing happens, like the Eisenhower matrix, urgent, important.
Very much related,
Huh?
yes. Covey talks about managing your time and activities based on importance rather than just urgency, focusing on quadrant 2 activities.
Which are the important but not urgent things.
Exactly. Things like building relationships, long-term planning, exercise preparation, the stuff that prevents crises from happening in the first place, but often gets pushed aside because it doesn't feel immediately pressing.
Yeah, the tyranny of the urgent, right. Always fighting fires instead of fireproofing.
That's the trap. Habit 3 is about having the discipline to prioritize these important quadrant 2 activities day in and day out, even when the urgent stuff is screaming for attention. It's about organizing and executing around your priorities.
Requires saying no to some things, I imagine.
Definitely. Saying yes to your important priorities means saying no to other things, even seemingly urgent things. It takes proactive choice, habit 1, and clarity of purpose, habit 2.
Okay, so those first 3 habits seem very personal, focused inward.
They are. Covey calls them the private victory. They're about achieving self-mastery, moving from dependence to independence.
Right. And then the next habits move outward.
Exactly. Habits 4, 5, and 6 are the public victory. They're about working effectively with others, moving from independence to interdependence.
Okay, so let's get into that. Habit 4, think win-win.
Right. This is a frame of mind, our heart set, really, that constantly seeks mutual benefit in all human interactions.
So not win-lose, like I win, you lose, or lose-win, where you're just a doormat.
Or lose-lose, where everyone ends up worse off. Win-win sees life as a cooperative arena, not a competitive one. It's based on the idea that there's plenty for everybody, that one person's success isn't achieved at the expense of others.
But that sounds hard in practice. Sometimes situations seem inherently competitive.
They can seem that way.
Yeah.
But win-win isn't about being nice, nor is it a quick technique. It requires integrity, maturity, and what Covey calls an abundance mentality. If a true win-win solution can't be found, the next best option might be win-win or no deal.
Ah, so you agree to disagree agreeably rather than force a bad compromise.
Exactly. You preserve the relationship and the possibility of finding a win-win later.
Interesting. Okay, that leads into habit 5, doesn't it? Seek first to understand, then to be understood.
It throws perfectly. You can't really get to win-win solutions if you don't deeply understand the other person's needs and perspective first.
This is about listening, right? But like really listen.
Empathic listening, yes. Not just listening to reply or pretending to listen while you formulate your own argument. It's listening with the intent to truly understand the other person's frame of reference, their feelings, their point of view.
That takes real effort and focus. Most of us are waiting for our turn to talk.
We are. But seeking first to understand builds trust, it clears up communication, and it actually makes the second part, being understood, much easier. Once people feel truly heard, they become much more open to hearing your perspective.
Makes sense. Diagnose before you prescribe.
That's a great analogy Covey uses, yes. Like a doctor wouldn't give a prescription without understanding the symptoms first.
Okay, so win-win mindset. Understand others deeply. What's habit 6? Synergize.
Synergy is, well, it's the habit of creative cooperation. It's teamwork. It's open-mindedness. It's the adventure of finding new solutions that are better than what anyone could have come up with alone.
So the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Exactly. 1 + 1 = 3 or 4 or more. It's about valuing differences, mental, emotional, psychological, and seeing them as opportunities, not threats.
How does that actually work?
It builds directly on habits 4 and 5. When you approach interaction with a win-win attitude, habit 4, and you genuinely seek to understand others, habit 5, you create the conditions for synergy. People feel safe, they open up, and creativity flourishes. You're not just compromising, you're creating something new and better together.
So it's the culmination of the interpersonal habits.
In many ways, yes. It unlocks the greatest potential in teamwork and relationships.
All right, that covers the public victory. We've got one habit left, sharpen the saw. Sounds like maintenance.
It is. Habit 7 is the habit of self-renewal. It's about preserving and enhancing the greatest asset you have.
How do you do that? What does sharpening the saw involve?
Covey talks about regularly renewing the 4 dimensions of your nature: physical, spiritual, mental, and social-emotional.
Okay, break those down. Physical is obvious,
Right.
right? Exercise, nutrition, stress management.
Yep. Mental renewal involves things like reading, learning, writing, planning, expanding your mind.
Spiritual. That could mean different things to people.
It could. For Covey, it's about connecting with your core values, your center. It could be through meditation, prayer, music, art, spending time in nature. Whatever inspires and uplifts you.
And social emotional.
That's about making meaningful connections with others. Practicing empathy, habit 5, seeking mutual benefit, habit 4, contributing to projects that involve synergy, habit 6. It's about building relationships.
So sharpen the saw isn't just downtime, it's investing in yourself across all these areas so you can keep practicing the other 6 habits effectively.
Precisely. It's what makes all the others possible on an ongoing basis. Neglect renewal, and the saw gets dull.
Yeah.
You become less effective over time.
It keeps the whole cycle going, an upward spiral, as he calls it.
Exactly. Continuous improvement, learning, committing, and doing on progressively higher planes.
Wow. Okay, that's a really comprehensive framework.
It really is.
So as we start to wrap up this deep dive on the 7 habits of highly effective people, wow, you can really see why these principles have provided such a powerful framework for, well, for so many people for so long.
Definitely. It stood the test of time, hasn't
It
it?
really has. We hope this conversation has given everyone listening a clear and maybe concise understanding of some genuinely valuable ideas.
Yeah, hopefully distilling some of that core wisdom. Now, thinking about everything we've discussed, just for you listening,
Mm-hmm.
what jumps out?
Mm-hmm.
Which one of these 7 habits feels most pertinent, most relevant to what you're currently navigating?
That's a great question to ponder. Is there one habit maybe that, as you reflect on it right now, seems like it could make the biggest difference for you, specifically in your current challenges or goals?
Yeah, where's the leverage point for you?
Yeah.
And maybe here's a final thought to sort of leave you with.
Okay.
While the 7 habits themselves offer incredibly practical guidance, techniques almost,
Mm-hmm.
at their heart, they really point to something deeper, don't they? Well, true effectiveness, as Covey lays it out, it isn't just about doing things more efficiently or ticking off tasks. It's fundamentally rooted in your character. It's about aligning your life with core universal principles.
Ah, that principle-centered core we talked about earlier.
Exactly. So maybe consider how that idea, this principle-centered living, how that resonates with you, perhaps even beyond just these 7 specific habits we've unpacked.
Yeah, that's a powerful thought. It's not just about the how, but the why and the who behind the actions. How could these principles inform what you're actually doing day to day?
Right.
Whether that's, I don't know, preparing for a specific meeting or maybe trying to understand a completely new field, or even just looking to live a bit more intentionally each day.
These habits aren't meant to be just abstract concepts sitting on a shelf.
No, they're meant to be lived, applied.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ultimately, everyone's journey toward greater effectiveness is, well, it's unique. It's personal.
For sure.
So we really just encourage you to continue exploring these ideas. Keep considering how they might shape your own path forward.
Well said. Keep learning, keep growing. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.